Hi. Hi. Hi.
Bored na bored? Mag-V-Smart quiz na! With more than 2,000 questions from numerous topics, this app will keep you entertained habang nagpapatalas ng isipan. I-challenge ang sarili by choosing the level of difficulty. Makipagtagisan din ng galing at talino sa ibang manlalaro sa amang lupalop ng mundo. Para magkaalaman kung sino ang tunay na quiz master. Sa V-Smart Quiz app, lahat ng stress and boredom will all be gone.
Hi! Mag-download na rin kayo ng V-Smart Quiz app.
Now available on Google Play Store and Apple App Store.
Good day, Kavibal, and welcome to our FB Live learning session. For the discussion today, the topic will be on how to prepare your students for Hyflex, hybrid, and on-site learning. Before we begin, take note of the following reminders. Make sure you are registered to the webinar you have your ECERT. Make sure that you are registered to the webinar to have your Kavibal, and welcome to our FB Live learning session. To have your e-certificate and participation, visit certificate.vibal.com or eturo.org to generate your proof of attendance. Place your questions on the comment box allotted during the session, and they will be addressed by our speaker later on. Share the video using hashtag LearnAs1PH as our official hashtag to our Vibal webinars. Experience learning, Kavibal. And now, to proceed with our webinar this afternoon, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished speaker today. Kim Derla is a graduate of Bachelor of Secondary Education major in English in the Polytechnic University of the Philippines. She takes up Master of Arts major in Malikhaing Pagsulat in University of the Philippines. Currently, she works as a freelance writer. She has conducted workshops about creative writing, news writing, and feature writing in various public and private schools in Metro Manila. She also dedicates her time in serving as a youth minister in their church in Taytay, Rizal. In her spare time, she writes book reviews on her blog www.kimderla.com. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Kim Derla.
Thank you, Miss Ben, for your introduction. Good afternoon, mga kabebal. Kumusta kayo? So today, we are going to learn about preparing your students for the Hyflex, hybrid, or on-site learning. So before we begin, again, I am Kim Derla. I am a freelance writer and freelance tutor as well. So I have an experience when it comes to online learning because we did it before. So yeah. So our agenda for today are the following. So first, we are going to review what Hyflex is. Okay. Later on, I am going to share with you important tips of the things that you need to prepare before, during, and after a Hyflex class. All right, let's begin. So good afternoon to those who are watching. So let's have a quick icebreaker, guys. So in the chat box here on YouTube, could you please type whether you are teaching in private or public school? Sige, introduce yourselves naman in the chat box. So I'll be reading some of your comments as well. So ako po, I am a private school teacher for 8 years. I've handled grades 1 until 7 before. Aside from that, I'm also teaching English. I handle creative writing classes as well. So how about you po? Introduce yourselves in the chat box. So why are we doing this? Because this webinar is, the target of this webinar is for those who are about to begin their school year, wherein they will be utilizing Hyflex as their modality. So again, we will focus on the most important modalities for this afternoon. So yan, meron na tayong participants na nagko-comment sa chat box. So keep them going. So again, type in the chat box, taga saan po kayo? Saan po kayo ngayon na nanonood? And are you teaching po in private or public schools? All right. So karamihan po ng nanonood is private school. Sige po, good afternoon po sa inyo lahat. So I hope makatulong po ang webinar na ito sa paghahanda para sa inyong Hyflex learning next school year. So if lagi kayong nanonood ng Vibal, for sure, naalala nyo na ngayon kung ano yung Hyflex. So marahil meron tayong bias tungkol sa Hyflex na nakakapagod naman sa side ng teacher yan. Baka naman puro teachers lang yung magpe-prepare, ganyan. So ngayon, bibigyan ko kayo ng idea kung ano nga ba ito, why is it important, why are we doing this, and how we can benefit from it. So let's begin. So i-review ko lang po kayo. The word Hyflex is a combination of the word hybrid and flexible. So hybrid plus flexible, Hyflex. Wow, yes, simple math. Okay, so this, according to Sir Brian Beatty, so hybrid flexible or Hyflex design delivers a student-directed multimodal learning experience. So meaning the students will have the opportunity to choose between attending and participating inside the classroom, in a traditional classroom, or even in a lecture hall setting or online environment. So kami po, in my previous school, what we did is that sa Hyflex modality namin, there are some students in the classroom. So nahati yung dalawang klase. Kalahati doon is nasa traditional classroom setup and kalahati doon is nasa online lang. So yan yung tatalakayan natin ngayon. So what are the values of hybrid flexible course design? So this is still according to Sir Brian Beatty. So for sure, narinig niyo na to. Now, when we say hybrid flexible course design, it is learner choice, meaning they have the opportunity to attend ba inside the classroom or to just join in the online class. So mas marami silang preferences, well, dalawa lang naman, kung paano sila matututo, in what way nila gustong umattend ng classes. Next is, there is equivalency. So ano ba yan? Deep word naman yung equivalency. Pero simple lang po yan. Meaning, whether uma-attend sa on-site class or online class, ang isang bata, meron pa ring equality. Kumbaga, the learning outcomes are still equal sa mga nasa school at nasa online. Next is reusability. So when it comes naman to asynchronous activities, whether they are choosing the on-site or online, everything is still reusable. So say for example, I chose, meron akong schedule na online lang, may-utilize ko pa rin yung gamit whether nasa school ako o hindi. Okay? And lastly, there is accessibility. So in our case, when we had So when we had the Hyflex learning before, so what we did is that merong half ng class, sa first week sila yung nasa loob ng classroom. Sa next week naman, sila naman yung nasa online. So there's this instance na the student is not feeling well. So instead of being absentee for that day, umattend na siya ng online class. So meaning it's accessible to all. Nakaka-attend, nakakarinig pa rin sila, natututo pa rin sila despite the location. It is accessible for them. So what are the elements of Hyflex learning? Ito po, papasadahan na lang natin to kasi for sure, narinig nyo naman na to sa ibang speakers. So mamaya share ko yung practical tips talaga. Okay, so first is When we say Hyflex learning, it is a technology system that supports online learners. So hindi lang yung mga nasa loob ng classroom. Maybe you're thinking, hala, natututo ba equally yung nasa loob at nasa online lang? Yes po. Okay. Yes, nag-decide na ako. Next, the courses that are designed with online delivery in mind. So when I am preparing my lesson plan for the Hyflex learning, while I am doing the lesson plan, I take into consideration my students online. So say for example, ang lesson namin, kailangan nilang mag-click the raise hand button. So paano ko i-adjust yung ano na yon, strategy na yon? Paano ipapagawa sa mga nasa loob ng traditional classroom? So ganun po. So yun, hindi lang basta-basta ang courses doon, hindi lang basta applicable inside the classroom, accessible din siya online. So next is, the teaching methodology incorporates online best practices. So hindi lang online delivery in mind, pero dapat online best practices. So for sure, in the past school years, we have already assessed whether this practice is good. Kung ang strategy ba to, ang technique ba to, na ito ay useful or hindi, for sure na determine na natin yan. Kaya sa next school year, i-incorporate natin yung pinaka-best pa, di ba? And lastly, in Hyflex learning, student and faculty learning, there is student and faculty learning technology support. So, ito po, during my first year of teaching, when I was still, siguro, fresh grad pa ako nun. So, I'm open for suggestions na minsan talaga, no, maraming alam yung mga batang websites, ganyan, na resources na pwedeng gamitin when it comes to technology. So, merong support between the student and faculty. So, bigayan rin siya at the same time. So, yun po yung elements ng Hyflex learning. So, here we go. So, how do we prepare before the Hyflex class? Okay. So, sa mga kakasali pa lang sa ating webinar, could you please type in the chat box if you're teaching in a public school or private school? Para lang dun may idea kaming mga organizers how we can help you. So also, you may comment, where are you from po? Where are you at the moment? Okay. So, nasa puso niya po. Okay. So going back, so ito yung mga ginawa kong preparation bago kami nag-conduct ng Hyflex learning. So tandaan natin na yung mga ginawa ko, yung mga ginawa ng ibang tao, maaaring applicable lamang sa amin o maaaring applicable rin sa inyo. So I encourage you na kung ano yung helpful sa inyo, yun yung pick upin nyo mula sa webinar na ito. Kasi for sure, dahil malaki ang Pilipinas, yung applicable sa amin dito sa NCR, maaaring kailangan i-adjust pa sa ibang lugar. So ano pa? So second reminder ay, syempre, meron pa rin sasabihin yung administrator ninyo, no, in preparation of the Hyflex learning, and you should follow that. So ayan lang, I'm just sharing my best practice. Siguro best practice to, no? Okay. So ayan. So ito yung mga ginawa ko before Hyflex class. Una, nagpanic ako. Ganun. Okay. Siyempre naman, ipagawa ba naman sa inyo yun? Tapos kayo pa yung unang gumawa, no, di ba? Hindi naman tayo galing-galingan agad. Siyempre, nagpanic muna ako. Pero at the same time, inassess ko din. Dahil na nagturo naman tayo ng online for 2 years, konting tweak na lang sa mga strategy kapag pinagsabay na natin. Ayan. So bukod sa pagpapanik, ito pa yung ginawa ko. So after listening to our administrators on how do we go about it, what we did first is that we prepared the class list, the schedule, and classroom. So isa-isahin natin siya. So number 1, class list. So, i-identify natin, syempre, given na alam niyo na yung number ng students niyo, kung ilan sila, ganyan. So, it's important to determine na bigyan natin sila ng class number for easy monitoring, di ba? Tapos, aside from that, we need to determine sino sa mga students na yon ang nasa loob ng classroom, sino naman yung students doon ang online. So, aside from that, Nagprint ako ng siguro 3 kopya. Una, yung unang kopya ko para hindi ako malito sa tuwing nagkaklase sa iba't ibang classroom, no? Pangalawa, nag-prepare ako ng class list para sa mesa para rin sa ibang subject teachers. And pangatlo, nag-prepare din ako ng class list para sa pintuan para madaling makita ng mga parents ng mga students para di rin sila maligaw. So pangalawa, kailangan din nating i-prepare yung schedule. So yung schedule na yon, sino sa mga students na yon ang online? Sino sa mga students na yon ang on-site? Dapat part yun ng schedule nila para hindi sila maligaw sa class na yon. And lastly, kailangan ding i-prepare yung classroom. Siyempre po may sinusundan tayong protocol, health protocol from DepEd at sa iba pa, no? Para ma-maintain natin yung social distancing. So yung classroom namin, hindi siya pinuno, no? So before talagang 35 siya, 35 to 40, pero that day, there were only 15 to 17 students inside the classroom. Then yung online, around 15. Okay. So next po is, aside from the health protocols, yung pagpe-prepare ng mga alcohol, 'di ba? Yung mga araw, ganyan, kailangan alam nila kung paano sila pupunta, papasok sa loob ng school, ganyan. So, 'yun, pin-prepare din namin 'yun. Aside from that, pin-prepare din namin yung mga technology na kailangan naming gamitin. So, in our case, merong projector, merong laptop, meron monitor din for the TV, and of course, meron ding camera. Okay? So, yung camera na yon may built-in microphone naman na. Kaya, so habang nagle-lesson ako noon, naririnig din naman online, and nakikita rin ng team online yung projector. So, pareho sila nang nakikita. Okay. So, yun yung mga 3 bagay. Pero, kayo po, ano sa palagay nyo yung iba pa nyong kailangang ihanda, no, para sa inyong Hyflex? For sure, iba yung experience ko pwede nyo may experience in the future. Pero ayun nga. So aside from that, identify the resources that you already have. Last Monday, kung nanood kayo sa Vibal webinar, no, ako rin po yun, I discussed several strategies that could help you in transitioning, no, to Hyflex. So may nagtanong doon, ano daw yung gagawin kapag limited lang yung resources nila, and how do they go about it? So syempre una, maximize mo lang kung anong meron ka kasi yung setup talaga for Hyflex learning is very expensive. Talagang paglalaanan talaga ng resources. Kasi hindi basta-basta yung camera, hindi lang siya yung simpleng camera, kailangan HD talaga siya na may built-in microphone. For some, meron pa silang 2 microphones inside the classroom. So, ayan, sa pakikipag-usap sa iba't ibang kaibigan na nagtuturo sa ibang private school, may 2 pa silang microphone. And sa iba, meron pa silang speaker sa loob. Pero, huwag kayong malungkot. So, di ba, sabi ko nga sa inyo, kung ano lang yung kaya, di ba, kung ano na yung meron kayo, identify and make the most out of it. So, do you need microphones? Do you need also TV, projectors? Applicable ba sa inyo to? So, yan. So, identify kung ano na yung meron na at kung ano pa yung dapat i-improve. Okay, next. So, before your Hyflex class, make useful visuals or rules inside the classroom. So, as I have mentioned a while ago, we also need to prepare our classroom. So, say for example, especially for the young learners, we need to constantly remind them to wear their mask. Ito na-experience ko to. Sobrang komportable na niya. Syempre, 'di ba, sa bahay sanay yung mga students na kahit walang mask, 'di ba? Kasi nasa bahay lang naman sila. So, pagdating sa school, we consistently reminded some to wear their mask, make sure na naghuhugas ng kamay using the water, ganyan. Tapos, kailangan din nilang mag-spray, gumamit ng sanitizers, ganyan. So, importanteng may mga visuals or rules, 'di ba? Our brain loves repetition. Hindi lang for the older ones, yes, but also most especially for the younger ones. At ito pa nga, as of today, di ba, ini-encourage pa rin na huwag silang magdidikit inside the classroom. So before the Hyflex class, dapat prepare na rin po natin ito. So, and lastly, dapat aside from the printed copy of lesson plan, aside from the printed schedule, ganyan, kailangan i-review rin natin yung lesson plan natin. So, how do we create a lesson plan for Hyflex? So, let's review our activities student-centered. So, share ko lang, no, napansin ko na when I was teaching Hyflex, hindi na mapakali yung mga bata. Like, kailangan nilang laging may ginagawa. So, halimbawa, early kami nagsisimula around 7:30. Yung iba sa kanila, inaantok pa kasi mas maaga nga naman silang gumising, di ba? Mas maaga silang gumising. So, inaantok-antok pa. Naisip ko na paglaruin muna sila. Pero, yung laro naman na yon ay hindi naman kailangan mag-touch ng classmates nila. Hindi naman kailangan ng physical touch. So, yung mga simpleng games. So, ayun. Aside from that, pag nararamdaman kong nagiging restless na sila, bored, magaslaw, diba yung attention talaga nila is sobrang ikli na lang talaga. Kaya ang daming kailangan gawin na activities for them. So, yun. Ang point ko lang doon is when we make our lesson plan, make sure that we insert activities na student-centered talaga. So, balikan nyo po yung mga nakaraang webinar sa Bebal, especially yung June 13, 2022 sa Facebook page nila kasi napaka-helpful ng mga tips doon na pwede nyo ring magamit. Next is, are your assessments equal? So, I've mentioned then a while ago na one of the elements or values of Hyflex class is that there should be equality. Dapat yung gagawin ng team on-site, as I call them, and team online, kailangan equal. Hindi pwedeng mas madali yung sa isa, then mas mahirap yung sa isa. So when we come up with a lesson plan, we should always think, will this be enough for both groups? So ayan. Say for example, my transfer task for my English class is, my lesson pala before is adjectives. So, tinuro namin yung adjectives. Tapos, ang transfer task namin is that they are going to show and tell. So, di ba, this is my favorite strategy talaga, show and tell. Kasi, ang gagawin lang naman nila is they will choose a toy that help them cope during the pandemic. Di ba, hindi lang naman matatanda yung mga, di ba, mahilig sa laruan, lalo na mga bata, no? So, ayun nga. So, ang goal nun is that they will use adjectives, synonyms, antonyms to describe that toy. Like, they're gonna explain, describe their toy using different adjectives. So, ang tanong doon is, paano ko ito gagawin sa on-site at paano ko ito gagawin sa online? So, pinagnilayan ko, pwede ba akong mag-show and tell sa Hyflex Learning? Pwede naman pala. So, what I did is that, sige, imagine niyo na lang, no? So, alternate. So, team on-site, team online. So, tatawag ako ng isa from team on-site to let them show, no, their toy. Then, pinagsalita ko siya near the microphone, the camera, so that team online would hear her voice. But, before doing that, of course, kailangan pa rin iset yung parameters na team online has to listen, team on-site has to listen as well, blah, blah, blah. So, later, expand ko pa yan. So, yun nga, review your lesson plan and is your time allocation balanced? So, when we say balance, are there enough activities for you to teach? Are there enough activities for you to facilitate the activities? Will there be enough time for student participation, interaction, ganun? So, that's number one. And lastly, kailangan we prepare the materials. Ito personal ko lang naman tong strategy. Ang ginawa ko is that, kasi nga na-excite yung mga students no, na finally, nasa school na kami, nasa classroom na kami. So, ang ginawa ko, I prepared parang small badge lang or yung mga sticker na pinrint ko lang rin, no, from online. Tapos may mga happy face ng good job, star, ganon. Kasi di ba before uso yung stamp, syempre, bawal siya ngayon dahil nga, alam niyo na, pandemic, ganyan. So instead na stamp and all, ganun nilang ginawa ko. Binigyan ko sila ng mga parang rewards for doing a great job, ganyan. So this is your badge for doing a great job, for keeping your table, your chair neat and order, ganyan. Very good for behaving, ganyan-ganyan. Tapos, before ko naman yung binigay at the very first day, sa unang araw namin, in-establish ko na whenever they're doing a great job, they'll receive that specific badge. Pero paper lang naman talaga yun, no? So, pinrint lang. Very simple lang naman. And hindi naman siya magte-take ng oras natin. So, maraming resources online na pwede ninyong gamitin. May mga materials din online. Tapos, ganito, sige, later ko i-explain yung next. So, yun yung mga ginawa ko in preparation for the Hyflex class. So, tandaan natin ha, kailangan prepared yung materials, yung lesson plan, yung visuals inside the classroom, yung resources ninyo, technology, ganyan, and of course, the basic stuff, the class list, schedule, and the classroom. So let's not forget that. Now, if you think meron pa akong nakalimutan, feel free to share it in the chat box so that the other viewers po could learn from it as well. So next. So ano naman yung gagawin sa during Hyflex class? So kung before, nagpanic ako. Yung pangalawa, yung during Hyflex, ito kinabahan ako. Kasi nga, first day ng Hyflex. So a day before the Hyflex class talaga, nakakakaba kasi syempre, ito yung unang beses na gagawin to, ganyan. Ano pa ba, nakakakaba kasi kaya ko ba, ganon. Dito ko malalaman kung useful ba yung lesson plan na ginawa ko, yung strategies, helpful ba, ganon. So kinabahan muna ako. Pero ito rin yung mga pwede ninyong gawin during Hyflex. So ang unang-una kong ginawa, dahil early childhood, yung tinuruan ko noon is that nag-set ako ng goals and objectives for the day. So gaya nga na sinabi ko kanina, syempre sinabi ko muna yung health protocols, pinaalala yon na dito kayo maghuhugas ng kamay, dito kayo maglalakad, dito kayo dadaan, andito yung space na hanggang dito lang dapat kayo, huwag niyong lalapitan yung classmate niyo, maintain distance talaga, don't touch their table, don't touch their chair, ganon. So mamaya, bibigyan ko sample. Tapos, sinet din namin yung mga objectives for the day. Ako naman, in my case, I did it for the week. So pinakitaan ko na sila, kasi nga, mga bata pa eh. Ang ginawa ko, pinakitaan ko na agad sila ng mga stickers, ng mga badges. Sabi ko, if you'll do well, I'll give you one. Ganyan. So ano ba ibig sabihin ng if you do well? So kapag malinis yung area nila, kapag neat yung gamit nila, 'di ba? So meron kayong extra star. Kapag nagpa-participate sa classroom, may extra star. And kapag Kapag nag-tidy up before leaving the room, merong isang star. Ngayon, ang setting nito, ito yung mga kausap ko on-site, paano naman nga yung online, 'di ba? Sabi ko kanina, dapat may equal opportunities. Siyempre, sinabi ko rin yon sa team online. So, meron din silang virtual badges. And then, yung noong turn naman nila to go in the classroom, kasi salitan sila, no? Sila naman yung naka-receive ng badges. So, set your goals and objectives for today. Ito, mabilisang kwento lang. Hindi mawawala yung sobrang komportable ng mga bata to the point na nakakalimutan na nilang umupo ng maayos. Di ba, sa bahay, siguro, chill lang sila, ganyan, very comfortable and all. So, I reminded them na to sit properly, dapat ayusin nila yung skirt nila, keep it di ba? So, yung mga basic na yun, pinaalala pa rin yun, kailangang ipaalala ng paulit-ulit. Sumunod ay, during Hyflex class, before everything, spend some time in explaining the do's and don'ts in learning, no? In learning for the Hyflex, whether it's for the on-site or online class. So, ito yung example ko dyan. So, sa team on-site, so I reminded them na you have to raise your hand before you speak. Kasi 'di ba, kapag nung online lang talagang unmute, ganon. So, minsan nasasanay sila na magsasalita na lang kasi naka-mute na lang naman sila eh. So, kayang-kaya na lang ayun. So, medyo maingay yung unang try ng class na to. Tapos, sa team on-site, I keep on reminding them to wear their face mask. It's still important. We still have to be careful. No, even though you're vaccinated, we still have to be extra careful. So, ito pa, pangatlo yung very important kasi kailangan nilang magpunta ng washroom. So, I give them an orientation on how to do it. Like, ano yung hand signal namin for that. Next is the use of sanitizer. I keep on reminding them na bring your own sanitizer para you don't have to go out to wash your hands, ganyan. Also, if kailangan talaga to wash your hands. So, part to ng orientation, no? For the on-site class. And lastly, keep distance. So, naririnig din to ng team online. Pero at the same time, I remind them na ito naman yung rules sa kanila for them. Here are the class rules for them. So first, you have to turn on your camera. No, you have to mute your microphone. You have to use the chat box when you have to say something. Do not unmute your microphone without the teacher's permission, ganyan. And it's applicable not only in my class, but sa lahat ng classes nila, dapat ganun. Next is, ang tendency kasi kapag team online, feeling nila nanonood lang sila sa aming mga nasa classroom. Therefore, they might use other gadgets as well. So as early as the first class, I told them not to use other gadgets and not to open apps that are needed lang. So may tendency kasi na, multitask sila while attending classes, madali lang naman alam na ng bata, no? Mag-explore ng gadgets. So, this is part of my reminders for them. So, meron po ba tayong na-miss na reminder? Would you like to add something po? Again, feel free to share in the chat box. So, kailangan na pagbalik pa lang nila sa classroom, they have to be reminded to be careful, no? To be safe, to be obedient, no? Classroom management to so they have to know it again. And hindi lang siya once sasabihin kasi especially yung mga may short attention lang, baka hindi nila napakinggan. So, kailangan pa ulit-ulit. Or if hindi man pa ulit-ulit, may strategy kung paano. Okay. So, next is, during Hyflex class, we have to use strategies in engaging students on-site and online. Ito na nga. So, say for example, in my English class, what I do is that I let someone from online class to read a sentence from the PowerPoint. So, after naman ng student from online class, I will be asking someone on-site, no, to read a sentence from the PowerPoint. So, salitan, may magbabasa inside the classroom, may magbabasa in the online class. So, ganun. So, and then, mahalaga rin na we keep on calling their names, especially yung biglang nag-off cam, yung biglang nawawala sa meeting, di ba? So, we have to call them. Kahit to say, for example, adjective is a word that describes noun, blah, 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 right? Alright, Kim, ganon. Right, Pedro, ganon. So, para lang ma-call up sila, teacher knows that I'm here. She knows that I should be, she reminds me to listen, ganon. So, not only sa team online, pero sa team on-site din. Kasi nga, sobrang restless nila ron. Like, kailangan kong maging superwoman muna. Kailangan kong maging Miss Darna. Kasi Darla nga yung last name ko. Ang tawag nila sa akin before is Darna. So, kailangan kong maging Wonder Woman talaga para makuha yung attention nila. And that is very challenging. I'm not saying it's difficult, it's just challenging. But kaya natin ito mga teachers. So, say for example, ito nga, panoorin niyo yung previous webinars. So, sa team on-site, ito yung mga pinagawa ko. So, sa team online, ito naman yung pinagawa ko. Pero, ang pinaka-favorite ko sa lahat is yung group activity namin. So, akala ko, hindi pwedeng mag-breakout rooms. Kasi mahirap. Pero pag pinaglaanan talaga ng oras sa lesson plan, kaya pala. So, paano ko ginawa yun? So, naglaan ako ng time para the whole class has to answer a question. Now, they have to do it with their group mates. So, I group the students inside the classroom, pero hindi naman sila naglapit-lapit, nagharap lang sila ng upuan. So, may social distancing pa rin. So, alam na nila yon kasi lagi na nilang ginagawa yung mga groupings online. So, merong grupo sa loob ng classroom, tapos may breakout room din sa online. So, habang nagsisharing yung nasa loob ng classroom, so let's say I had 4 groups sa classroom, tapos meron, nagkiklik, nandito kasi, So, habang gumagawa ko ng breakout room sa online class at the same time, no, ang ginagawa ko noon is, pinupuntahan ko per breakout rooms. So, merong 4 breakout rooms din. So, habang nag-sharing sila doon, nagja-jump ako from one breakout rooms to another sa online class naman. So, yes, kumakain siya ng oras, pero posible pa rin naman siya. So, kung meron akong 1-hour class, around 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes yung ilalaan ko for the group activity. Pero, syempre, limited lang yung mga pwedeng gawin sa group activity. So, pwede pa silang gumawa ng poster at the same time, yung mga team on-site. Syempre, hindi muna kasi bawal pa silang magdikit, magkaroon ng physical interaction. Pero yung team online, pwede silang gumawa ng simple posters, di ba? So, kung ang group activity ay nagre-require na mag-touch sila, hindi siya dapat gawin. Pero kung ang group activity lang ay more on sharing, more on talking, so posible siyang gawin. So, ito naman yung ilan sa mga favorite kong strategies na pwede nyo ring gamitin. So, ang tinuruan ko kasi before is mga bata. Pero for the higher years, so maganda na subukan nating ipagawa yung mas challenging na strategies pa. Pwede tayong mag-utilize ng online game, tas tayo lang yung pipindot for them. We ask certain students to answer, di ba? So para mas interactive, para mas ma-engage pa yung mga students. Okay, next. During Hyflex class, we have to give the class an opportunity to express themselves. Feeling kasi ng mga bata, pag nakikinig lang sila ng lecture, discussion, ganyan, maybe they're feeling bored. So the best thing to do talaga is to give them a lot of activities that would push them to do something. So say for example, as I've mentioned kanina, show and tell. One of my favorite strategies is stand up and be counted. So I post a sentence, and if they can relate to it, they have to stand up so that they would be counted. But if they're not, they just have to sit down. So ganun lang siya. So magagawa to kahit on-site or online. O diba? So say for example, imagine you are my online class now. Sige nga, stand up and be counted if you're wearing blue. Okay, or let's say stand up and be counted if you're wearing white socks. Ganyan. So syempre, obviously, lahat ng nasa loob ng classroom tatayo kasi most of them are wearing white socks naman. And maybe some of the students online are also wearing socks. Di natin sure. Or stand up and be counted if you have water bottle beside you. Ganyan. So pwede natin siyang gawin for both, no? So, team on-site would be, syempre, may tubig talaga sila. Hindi pwedeng mawala yung water bottle nila sa tabi. So, yan. Pwede rin gawin yun ng online kasi, di ba, while attending online classes, di ba, pwede rin nilang, pwede pa rin silang mag-participate. Okay. So, show of hands naman. So, maganda rin to kasi magagawa ng team on-site, raise your hand, magagawa pa rin ng team online. And also, lalo na sa lower grade levels, importante pa rin na nagsusulat sila. Whether it's in their notebook or on their whiteboard or small chalkboard. So say for example, if they need to spell something, di ba, sa mga spelling activities. So pag math naman, di ba, if they need to answer a question, kapag science, AP, CL, and other subjects, no, MAPE, ganyan. So, kayang-kayang gumamit pa rin ng Show Me board for both groups. 'Di ba? Sobrang fun gumawa ng experimental strategies for them. Kasi tayo-tayong mga teachers rin naman yung nakakaalam kung alin yung applicable sa class natin at hindi applicable. Ganyan. Okay. Next po is, make sure during the Hyflex class, make sure to have a recapitulation part before your class ends. So what do you mean by that? Ibig sabihin, wag natin silang pauwiin without them remembering something. So say for example, can you give me one adjective that you will remember for the rest of your life? So team online, type your answers in the chat box. So team on-site, write your answers on your whiteboard or on your mini chalkboard, ganyan. So pwede natin gawin yan. Tapos, pwede rin nating sabihin na, so kung recapitulation to, sa simula, pwede rin nating activate yung skills nila na, or we could let alamin natin kung anong nararamdaman nila, no, using different emojis, ganyan. Pero sa recapitulation, napakarami tayong pwedeng gamitin. So say for example, kung meron tayong 15 to 20 students sa loob ng classroom, so sabihin natin, give me one adjective that you have learned today. Class number 1, 2, 3, 4, paikot na yon. And then, pabalik naman ng, imagine niyo may TV ako dito kasi online. Imagine niyo yan. Tapos, how about you, team online? Unmute your microphone and say, give me one adjective. Ganyan. So, pwede rin yung round robin doon sa kanila. They will just unmute their mic. However, it's really challenging kapag matagal pa mag-press ng unmute button yung students. Pero kasi, naka 2 years na sila. So second year pa nga lang ng online class namin, ang galing-galing ng gumamit ng mga gadgets ng mga bata, di po ba? Okay. So, yan. Pero kung magaling sila, syempre, mas gagalingan natin for sure. Yan. Special greetings daw po sa may pagbate sa mga taga Nuestra Señora de Aronso sa Parochial School. Hello po. Ayan. So ngayon, nalaman na natin, balikan na natin kung ano yung dapat gawin before and during. Ngayon, ano naman yung gagawin natin after Hyflex class? Ang una nating gawin ay mag-milk tea. Ang una nating gawin ay magpahinga. Ay, hindi pa rin pala. Ang una nating gawin after our first Hyflex class ay ang mga susunod. Magkape, ganon. Deserve natin yan, teachers. Okay. So first is, kailangan natin i-remind uli yung mga students sa schedule nila for the next day. Kasi minsan naninibago pa sila sa adjustments na, Miss, ma'am, are we going to attend on-site classes this week? Are we gonna be online next week? So dapat, bago pa sila umuwi, alam na nila yon, no? And aside from the schedule, nakalimutan ko lang ilagay, after their class, we have to remind them what are the things that they need to bring the next day. So just in case lang makalimutan nila, we still have to remind it to them. Sometimes what we do is I already write it on the board. So sometimes aside from the materials, I also write the books that they have to bring in school. Kasi, di ba, especially sa mga bata, no, ang hirap nga naman kasi magdala ng napakaraming gamit. So we encourage them to bring what they only need for the day. So kapag hindi kailangan, iwanan. Ay, okay. Klase pa ba yung pinag-uusapan natin? Okay, so yun po. Next, after Hyflex class, of course, we need to assess which strategies are helpful and which strategies are not helpful. So hindi naman talaga 100% perfect agad, di ba? Kasi we are new to this. Bago lang tayo rito. And for sure, there is still a need to improve some parts. Syempre, kailangan nating galingan sa next round. Okay, so aside from that, ngayon maybe you're wondering, so if yun yung binanggit mo, paano namin i-assess yung mga students online and on-site? So syempre, hindi ko na sasabihin yung mga kahulugan ng formative assessment. Alam niyo na po yan, formative. hindi graded within the class. Summative, recorded and graded, and then, alam niyo na yan, and then transfer task, yung mas malaking percentage sa class, sa assessments. Ngayon, we are encouraged na dalhin pa rin natin yung mga strategies na ginamit natin during online class. Ngayong Hyflex na, mas kailangan na natin siyang gamitin para hindi na rin tayo mahirapan. So, say for example, for higher levels, no, para mas maging paperless na po tayo, kailangan na we utilize the Google Forms, no, the different apps like Quizizz or Kahoot, Padlet. Gamitin pa rin natin sila in our Hyflex learning para hindi na tayo check. Naalala ko ng first year of teaching ko, hello sa mga co-teachers ko dyan, sana nakikinig kayo ngayon. Tapos, ang first term examinations namin noon, ang dami kong chinecheckang papel, apat na groups, 4 na sections. So ngayon, sa ano ka na lang nag-check, no? Sa computer, or hindi kung essay pero kung objective type naman yung exam, automatic na ma-check na siya, di ba? Kapag nilagay natin yung correct answer, ganun. So yun, wag nating iwan yung magagandang bagay, yung magagandang alaala from online class sa Hyflex class. Kailangan gamitin pa rin natin siya now kasi useful naman talaga sila. So may mga resources din ng Vibal sa kanilang website na pwede nyo rin gamitin, no? So very useful yung mga worksheets, yung mga graphic organizers. Yes, hindi siya oldies, hindi siya talagang ma-assess yung critical thinking skills ng ating mga students using different worksheets, graphic organizers. Okay, so i-check nyo rin po yung mga resources from Vibal. Next is, explore other activities that are applicable to your class. So kanina, pagkasimula ko, sinabi ko po sa inyo na yung applicable sa akin, maaaring kailangan i-adjust para sa needs ng mga students ninyo. Especially, we have different numbers of students. So maaaring mas marami yung sa akin, tas konti lang sa inyo. So pwede nyo pa rin siyang baguhin at i-maximize. No? So explore other activities. Marami pa akong hindi nagagawa for the Hyflex kasi nga trial lang yung nagawa namin. Pero for sure, laging may opportunity to learn, no? Something new. Ano pa kaya yon? So i-explore natin yon. How do we do that? By reading more research about Hyflex modality. Miss Kim, ano ba? Sobrang dami na namin ginagawang paperworks. Pero siguro sa free time natin, ganyan. Pero syempre, wag natin kalimutan ang ating sarili. We have to work smart, no? When we say smart, there are already references, there are already resources online which we can utilize. Magugulat nga ako, pwede na palang gumawa ng sariling puzzle, crossword, ganyan, online, tapos hindi mo na imamano-mano. At for sure, mas marami pang online assessments na websites ang pwede natin gamitin for that, di ba? If napanood niyo pa, di ba, meron din tayong V-Smart sa Vibal na pwede niyong gamitin, di ba? So, by using those resources, we are working smart. Therefore, meron pa tayong time sa ibang bagay. Yun po, teachers, kailangan i-maintain natin yung balance, no? Life and work balance. Kahit marami tayong ginagawa sa school, make sure na meron pa rin tayong oras sa sarili. Kasi tayong mga teachers, hindi dapat tayo nauubos. Lagi tayong mag-recharge kasama ng ating mga pamilya, di ba? So, let us manage our time well. Kasi at the end of the day, tayo rin naman yung magbe-benefits. And of course, yung students rin, magbe-benefit sila. If happy si teacher, for sure, happy rin ang mga students. Okay. So, ito naman, share ko sa inyo yung mga helpful tips na nagamit ko during our Hyflex activities. So, ang unang-una kong na-realize, ito. Dapat balance yung activities na ginagawa ng mga students on-site and remote learners, students online. Kailangan balance yung ginagawa nila. Say for example, if sa team on-site, merong book activity, so talagang tinitingnan ko yung kung ginagawa nila yung book activity, no? Kasi nasanay sila na may tumutulong sa kanilang parents sa bahay, di ba? Nasa school na sila. Sa kanila sila magtatanong. So, going back, so dapat, example, so book activity, ginagawa ng team on-site. So, gagawin rin yon ng team online. So, di ba? Kung i-maximize natin yung mga books, hindi na tayo mahihirapan gumawa ng assessments, di ba? Mag-check na lang tayo, magpa-facilitate na lang tayo ng learning, i-explain na lang natin sa kanila kung ano yung tamang sagot, kung bakit mali yung sagot nila, at kung ano pa yung mga enrichment activities na pwede nilang gawin. So again, hindi nyo ito kailangang talagang gawin ng bonggang-bongga kasi meron naman ng mga libro at online resources na pwedeng gamitin. So ang ibig ko sabihin, kung merong book activity sa both groups, kailangan balance, no? Same pages, ganyan, equal opportunities. Ngayon, anong gagawin natin kung merong student talaga na napakatalino at maagang matapos? So, sa iba, yung ibang parents, ang ginawa nila sa mga team on-site na mabilis matapos, meron silang parang mini workbook or busy book na kung saan, yun yung gagawin nila kapag tapos na yung book work nila. So, coloring book para sa mga, inaalaw ko naman yun kasi nga naman, if ever may 10 minutes sila to answer the book, tapos nasagot lang nila in 5 minutes kasi nga advanced reader na sila, hindi na sila kailangan mag-ask ng help, ganyan. Kailangan meron silang pang ibang gagawin while waiting. Kasi alam nga naman tumunga lang sila sa atin that time. Okay, so ganun din sa team online. So dapat merong balance. Okay. Next is, we have to repeat our questions. Ito nga yung kung meron kayong dapat tandaan sa webinar na ito is, ulit-ulitin natin yung mga reminders, ulit-ulitin natin yung mga questions. Kasi may mga bata talaga na pag isang beses lang natin nasabi yung isang sentence or idea, hindi nila yun naririnig, no? Kailangan natin ulit-ulitin for them as well. Diba? Aside from that, di ba tayo rin, minsan, example, sa webinar na ito, maaaring may nalagpasan kayong helpful sentence, no? Pwede nyo namang balikan mamaya sa replay. So, ganun din, lalong-lalo pa sa mga young learners, kailangan ng pag-uulit. Okay? And next, allow time for engagement. Ito talaga yung pinaka-helpful kong natutunan kasi excited na ang mga bata to interact, to engage with their classmates. Sa totoo lang, yung ibang students napakaagang pumasok para makipagkwentuhan sa mga classmates nila. And okay lang yun. Bigyan natin sila ng time to communicate with their classmates kasi ang tagal rin naman talaga nilang na-stuck sa loob ng bahay at kailangan talaga nila ng ibang kausap. Kailangan nilang makipag-socialize, ganyan. So, okay lang yon. Bigyan natin sila ng panahon para doon. Pero at the same time, we have to remind them na there is a time for everything. Ito nga sa mga grade 1 students ko before, lagi kong nire-remind, class, there is a time for everything. There is time to eat, recess and lunch. There is time to sleep kasi yung iba inaantok. There is a time to ask questions kasi yung iba nagbabat in. So, ganon. We have to repeat, to balance, and allow them to engage with other classmates as well. And us teachers, ganon talaga yung gagawin natin. We have to remind them that there is a time for everything. Siguro hindi lang talaga sa students to applicable, kundi sa atin ding mga teachers, no? We should find time to plan. We should find time to assess. And most importantly, we have to find time to rest as well. Kailangan din nating magpahinga. So, kagaya nga na sinabi ko sa inyo kanina, nung una akong nagturo, ang una kong reaksyon ay nagpanic talaga ako. Nagpanic ako kasi, hala, paano to? Ganyan, mangangapa tayo and all. Pero hindi. Kailangan nating magtiwala sa ating kakayahan. And for sure, nandyan yung mga helpful colleagues natin to help us as well in this endeavor. And of course, yung mga future webinars pa sa Vebal, very helpful for us teachers. So, 'di ba, kahit nakikinig lang kayo sa audio, no? helpful yan habang nagluluto, habang nagsasaing, di ba? So, pakinggan nyo lang ng pakinggan yung mga libreng resources for the teachers kasi makakatulong talaga siya. Ako din, bago ako nagplan, nagbasa-basa muna ako, nakinig muna ako ng audio ng iba pang mga magagaling na teachers, no? Yung iba, pinakikinggan ko talaga na, okay, pwede pala yun. Tsaka, dahil sa kanila, nakabuo rin ako ng sarili kong plan. So, gawin natin yon. So, ito, kagaya na sinabi ko kanina, our first Hyflex class doesn't have to be perfect. Hindi kailangang 100% okay lang na meron tayong lapses. Pero, ang hindi okay, hindi natin pagbubutihin next time. So, very wrong yon. What I mean is that may mga activities na maaaring mag-fail, merong strategies na maaaring wali, di ba? Okay lang yon kasi lahat naman tayo ay nangangapa pa rin sa field na ito, sa adventure na ito, di ba? Ito na talaga yung exciting part. At kung hindi natin siya sobrang na-apply ng pagkaganda-ganda, okay lang po talaga, teachers. Kasi we need to adjust pa our strategies. We need to adjust our lesson plan. Okay lang yon. Don't be so hard on yourself, teachers. And aside from that, it's really important for improvements, di ba? Kagaya nung unang online class natin, hindi naman natin totally alam kung anong mangyayari sa mga susunod. Pero eventually, kinaya pa rin natin because this is an opportunity to learn more. For sure, after this event, kapag nagawa na natin to, no, for the next school year, we already acquired new skills, di ba, teachers. So for sure, gamit yung mga online resources, mas gumaganda yung ating mga PowerPoint, mas gumaganda ang ating visual aids, mas dumarami ang ating mga iba't ibang strategies, no? Mas lalo tayong natututo, mas lalo tayong nagiging effective teachers. At kapag ginawa natin siya with all of our heart, for sure naman po, lahat naman siya is mapipay off, no? Ibig sabihin, for sure, our students will really appreciate that. So our students will remember us kahit sa mga maliliit na bagay na ginagawa natin for them. Naalala ko, no, malapit na ako matapos, don't worry. Naalala ko, no, nung grade 4 ako, meron akong math teacher talaga na alam kong sobrang appreciative niya lang talaga na kapag may nakaka-perfect ng periodical exam, kasi periodical exam pa yung tawag, naalala niyo ba? Nagbibigay siya ng mga Cloud9, yung mga chocomucho, yung ganun. Which, for me, as a young student, kakaiba to Tapos simula nun, hindi ko na siya nakalimutan. Tapos, as of today, naiiyak yan. So, hindi ko na siya nakalimutan kasi yung teacher na yun talagang pinaramdam niya sa amin, hindi lang sa akin, no, sa buong klase na na-appreciate ng mga teachers yung ginagawa ng students. So, syempre, hindi naman dahil sa may chocolate and all, no? Pero bukod doon sa mga kind words, sa mga pag-assist nila, ganyan. So, at the end of the day, makakalimutan naman nila yung mga subject na tinuro natin, hindi po ba? Ang maalala nila kung paano tayo naging mabuting tao sa kanila. Hindi po ba? So, kahit ano pang modality yan, whether it is Hyflex, hybrid, onsite, or kung ano man, at the end of the day, lagi ko ito sinasabi, we should still be kailangan magparamdam tayo ng empathy sa ating mga students, no? Maaalala nila tayo for that. So, ayun lang mga teachers, no? Again, before I end my talk, I would like to remind you po na don't be too hard on yourself, no? Kayang-kaya niyo po yan. Because whatever we are going through right now, it is an opportunity to learn more. And when we learn, we grow. So, that would be all. So, if you have any questions, feel free po to type in the chat box. And please, like my Facebook page. If you learned something from my simple talk, like my Facebook page. The name is Kim Gerla. So, yun lang po. And thank you so much, teachers. Have a great day.
There we have it.
Thank you so much po. Thank you so much, Miss Kim. Now we will proceed po to the question and answer portion. So, let's just wait. Actually, kanina meron na pong isa. For our first question po, Miss, from Shem Alias Saleyu, she said na, is it really necessary po to open the camera of the student since we already have the data privacy law?
So thank you, Miss Ben, for that question. Thank you rin po sa nagtanong, no? So it depends on your school. Kaya sa nabanggit ko kanina, what's applicable for us may not be applicable for you. So kung sa amin, ako personally as a teacher, gusto kong makitang naka-open yung cam niya, kahit yung face niya lang talaga yung nakikita. Kasi may mga activities na kailangan kong makita if ginagawa niya yung activities online. Kasi may mga batang nagbibigay ng excuse na mahina yung internet, ganyan. Okay lang naman kung once lang silang mag-off cam. Pero most of the time talaga, kapag personally as a teacher, gusto kong naka-open yung cam. Pero ang tanong, required ba na i-open yung turn on nila yung camera nila dahil may data privacy? That is still up to you po. Depende po sa school nyo and depende po sa inyo as a teacher po. Thank you po.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. We have another po from Sir Vince Calbalboa po. He's asking since daw po, sabay daw po yung online and yung on-site nyo daw po. How do you create your rubric or how do you grade your students daw po since they're doing the same activities po?
Okay po. So for the breakout room activity, kanina yung grouping na nabanggit ko, it's actually formative assessment lang. Kasi for sure, may iba't ibang sagot, no? Hindi ko mamomonitor yung ginagawa ng team on-site. Hindi ko, maaaring may malagpasan rin ako sa team online. So, hindi ko pa siya ginegradean. Instead, pinaprocess ko lang siya. So, say for example, for one group, I'll pick one representative para ma-share niya sa whole class kung ano yung napag-usapan nila. So with that, I'll process that answer and share it to all of the students. So more on formative pa lang naman yung mga breakout room activities. Kasi mahalaga na yung degradean ko na activity is parang ano na siya, totality ng lahat ng formative assessments at activities na ginawa namin. So yung grading sa huling part na kapag na dumaan na sa formative assessments yung lahat. Ayun lang.
Ma'am, ayan po, may humabol, ma'am, last na po since this is going to be our last question for this afternoon na po. From Miss Lauren Diaz, can you suggest other apps po to use for Hyflex like Kahoot or other than Kahoot daw po?
Okay po, aside from Kahoot, syempre, let's not forget Vibal. Meron ding V-Smart ang Vibal. Let's utilize that po. And ako po, I use Quiz-Is. Mas nauna kong gamitin yung Quiz-Is kaysa sa Kahoot. Iba rin yung style nito sa Kahoot, so pwede nyo po siyang ma-search. Next is yung Padlet. Pwede nyo rin po siyang gamitin. Well, gamit na nga po to eh. No? So ano pa ba? Mentimeter, ganyan. And ano pa ba? Mostly yun lang naman. Pag nagpapagawa ng blog sa mga student, whether rin sa WordPress or Blogspot, ganyan, or sa Wix, ganyan. So, ayun po. Marami pa yan. Search nila. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. That's all the questions we have for today. Any last reminders to our viewers before we end our live?
Okay po, thank you. Before we end, teachers, so if you're still watching this, so let's remember na it doesn't have to be perfect po, but at least we have to do our best in learning from it. So don't be too hard on yourself po. Kaya natin to, teachers. Thank you.
There we have it. In behalf of Vibal Group Incorporated, I would like to thank our speaker for today for this eye-opening and insightful learning session. It is an honor to have you with us today, and to all our Kavibal viewers, all thanks to you also for your continuous patronage to our daily learning session. Don't forget to register to get your e-certificate of participation. We encourage you to subscribe and watch on our official Vibal Facebook and YouTube